What is up, guys? Lord Nick here, bringing you another League of Legends related video. It's another weekly Clutch update. Clutch Gaming, guys, they went 1-1 this week, which puts us at a solid 7th place. Now, that would sound way worse than it actually is. The thing is that there's a 6-way tie for first. So, what can you do? We're literally one game off of being in first place. Woohoo! A lot closer than last year. That's so good for us. Now, mind you, we did lose to one of these first place teams, but we did beat one of them as well. So we've now beat, let's see, in our 3 wins, we have beat FlyQuest, 100 Thieves, and Golden Guardians. We have lost to Optic, Cloud9, and TSM. 3 teams we've lost to are teams that are kind of expected us to lose to. The 3 teams we beat, 2 of which I expected us to win, one of which was just a happy stomp that they ended up doing. They do have the potential to be in this pack, running for that first, second, third place spot now. They are showing a lot more unity as a team. Individual play has been up much better than it was last split. Lyra is getting praise from the Clutch community, which he was getting shit on the Clutch community last year or last split. And I was like advocating for defending him. Yes, he's not doing good. Yes, he's doing terrible. But please stop tearing into this guy. Yes, I think he's probably past his prime, and I still kind of hold to this. But he's starting to prove us wrong, right? Like he's showing multiple picks that he's come out with. He's come out with quite a few more picks than he did last split, where he was only hovering towards 1 or 2 different champions. This one, he's got a wheelhouse of them that he's gone through, and he's doing well on pretty much all of them. And so you have Huni, who's also rotating through champions. He did Rumble twice one week. They won both those games, so people started banning it. He tried the GP out, didn't really do much, but that was partially due to the fact that the Caitlyn Lux was just kind of stomping through everybody. And then you have maybe the Silas that ended up working really well against FlyQuest. Like, he was just being so good with those ultis, just constantly stealing and using enemy ultis. You have Demonte, who's just been great this split so far. He's very consistently probably one of the best performers on the team so far. And so let's go deeper into that TSM game, though. Like, we're looking at the TSM specifically, this matchup, because this is the loss they had, and what caused the loss in this one was the fact that the enemy bot lane had a massive ranged advantage, and they had a very aggressive linear bot lane, which is not good, because the opposite side is extremely defensive with a ton of CC, and easily will defend against that with no real repercussions that could be made by the opposite side. So when you're looking at stuff like that, it's kind of a 50-50 shit shoot if they're going to end up winning that, right? Like they're in a spot that they could potentially win it if they play it exceptionally well, but that also requires TSM to play it moderately bad. So it's not looking good there. And Vulcan found that out very early. He made a very good aggressive play that then got answered with a Lux Bind and a Caitlyn trap and then a net, and he died because just tons of damage. And that bind got both him and Cody Sun out of position, so which Cody Sun couldn't body block some of the Caitlyn attacks or eat the Caitlyn trap so he doesn't get stuck on it. It just went poorly for the both of them there because it was just played really well by TSM, and from that point on, they basically had lost the game. They lost the lane at least. The game itself wasn't quite lost, but then nobody could stop the Caitlyn Lux. They just kept going through and steamrolling people in fights. It was just very hard for them to deal with. And McScrags came out on a small video to the Clutch Gaming group of hey guy and posted on the Clutch Gaming Twitter of hey, you know what, that draft was my fault. They could have won. They showed that they had chances to win, but they didn't take them. But it was much harder for them because the draft did definitely go in TSM's favor a lot more than Clutch Gaming's. And just on paper, Clutch was going to be behind pretty much every lane. None of their lanes had lane priority. Lyra was not going to be able to gank them very effectively because if they got counter ganked with lackluster lane priority like that, it's just an easy turnaround for TSM at that point. So it just became much harder for Clutch to find their win con in that game, and so because of that, they ended up just kind of losing that game. Pretty one-sided game in TSM's favor there. But some of the positives from it was the fact that they held on for a solid amount of time. I wouldn't call it a long time, but it was a good amount of time that they held on, which did show that TSM has some chinks in their armor, and that Clutch could have probably won the game if they had a few separate, pick decisions there. If they had been able to catch somebody out here or there, they might have been able to force a 4v5 and might be able to win it then. But with the GP, they were looking more for kind of like a split push pressure comp, and Hootie didn't get snowballing early, so it was just all in all just not a great performance by Clutch. Lyra probably could have been going to the top lane and trying to spoon feed Hoonie, but there's some risk there as well, as the GP in lane is not always known for being the super dominant individual. Now, some cases he can be, but in the case of that situation, he was not. Damonte held strong. He just wasn't able to really do anything. So I mean, I feel like maybe he and Lyra could have worked together to push into the top lane to get to confirm the kill, or they could have rotated a bot and gotten some more pressure on them, because Lux can only snare up to 2 people, so that would open up Vulcan or Lyra to be able to jump in and get some CC on them and possibly burn some sums and force them back. But I feel like they waited a little too long to do anything, and they weren't proactive enough in the early game. That's why the composition didn't end up working. Now, Vulcan tried to be proactive in the early game. That cost him his life, but they didn't have any reinforcements from Lyra at the time. If Lyra was there, I think that play could have been completely different and probably could have gone in the favor of them. But because they both got snared, and the fact that Lyra wasn't there, I feel like that ended up just being a slight int and oversight on his part. Now, that's not a huge, like, oh, this means he's a terrible player, but it is a mistake that he does need to try to avoid in the future, of going a little over aggressive in a situation where they don't have the positioning or the backup to make sure that it doesn't go awry like that. Now, if we look at the FlyQuest game, though, there is almost nothing but positives from FlyQuest game. They really took a dominating lead after the first Baron. It was pretty even prior to that. They managed to get a pick or two, and then they just forced that Baron that they were caught doing, and FlyQuest was just inactive. They went AFK, I guess, and just decided, we could give up a Baron. Like, that just seemed really dumb, and it cost them a lot of towers for it, and the gold advantage allowed them to start getting picks. They started picking off the Nautilus or a couple of people here or there. They fought for some dragons, got some dragon control finally, but they weren't able to really turn that into the win yet. So the second Baron comes up, and that's pretty good, and they managed to use that very effectively, get some pressure on the waves, get another catch. They don't end up being able to push it down and win, but they got 2 inhibs off of it. So they then try for that bot dive that went absolutely horrible. Now, mind you, if that play hadn't happened, the game would have looked very clean, and it would have just looked really slow and looked like they just maybe not knew how to close it out there, which wasn't 100% their fault, but, I mean, they could have tried the 1-3-1 a little more. They didn't really effectively do a 1-3-1. They just kept sending either Huni or Damonte in a side lane, and then having the other one kind of roam between the mid and the bot there. It was kind of weird. And it ended up just not working for them. And then they got the third Baron, and that's where they were able to topple them. So I feel like they just need to learn how to work on the 1-3-1 a little bit better. Like, they weren't executing it perfectly. They didn't sync their minion waves like they should have to make it harder on FlyQuest. They didn't abuse the fact that Huni could 1v1 the Rise or Damonte could 1v1 the Rise. Like, neither of them were going too terribly aggressive. I think they were just giving Pobelter a lot of benefit of the doubt. There was like 1 or 2 times that they forced a flash out of him, but they didn't like pressure after that. They just kind of slowly pushed the wave after that, so they kind of lost their momentum and build up there. So I think if they just kind of work on those 2 things, working on building up that pressure and being able to do it in a fast pace, like, oh, okay, cool, I forced the only person defending against me to have to leave. Let me force up this wave and go to that inhib and start getting damage on the inhib. And when he shows up, I'll just force him to leave again, or force some of his team to start rotating towards me, which gives up pressure elsewhere on the map, and his team could have just pushed it in. They should have been able to win it by the second Baron. The third Baron shouldn't have been needed, but it ended up just allowing them to win in the end, but it was still a little bit sloppy in that regard. But other than that, the rest of the game was very impressive. Demonte showed a lot of skill on the Akali, which was really good to see him move away into this kind of assassin-y role, as he hadn't really been playing much of that. He'd been playing much more of the mages in the mid lane, and a few bit closer to the control style, which is still good to see that he has some versatility. Vulcan and Cody Sun looked very solid. The two of them were not playing over aggressive. I think they learned from the TSM mistake. Play what hand that was given to them. Worked with Lyra really well in the 1-3-1s. Lyra used the Skarner super effective. Like, constantly focus the support to force him to, have to use everything to get out, or, we kill him. And that was good. Just having a man advantage and a CC bot off the field is really good for your team. And then, Huni just dominated with that Sylas. I feel like that was a very bright game, bright spot game for him. He did very well in applying tons of pressure and constantly stealing the ultimates and constantly using them to good effect. Except for one Ryze ulti where he ends up ulting one minion from the top lane to the mid lane, which they were trying to use to topple the mid tower, which it didn't exactly do as well as I think he intended. I think Pobelter ended up clearing the wave before he could TP it all in, which was kind of funny. But other than that, like, the ulti uses were great. Like, there's nothing bad to say about their individual play. It just seemed that their team coordination needed a little bit more work. But that's just kind of a small smoothing over of the rough edges there. The fact that they have rough edges opposed to just being completely jagged, broken shards is good. Like, they are becoming more of a team. They're working better together. They seem happier. They're having a better experience this split as they are kind of coming into their own and working together really, really well. And I'm really happy about that. I think a big part of that is probably Cody Sun's addition. Piglet is also formally off the team, which is kind of big announcement this weekend. There's a lot of people that are kind of upset about that, and I do want to touch up on that in this video real quick. And I think you can be upset that Piglet is gone, but don't idolize him like he's the best ADC in the world, guys. I have been a advocate for telling people Piglet is not very good. And nobody really seems to believe me when I say these things because, oh, look at his time on Team Liquid, look at his time on SKT. Now, mind you, he left SKT because they were going to get rid of him because he was becoming less and less effective. So he's leaving there. He comes to North America, has done nothing in North America, and people say, oh, it's because he had bad teams and stuff. No, one of the Curse/Team Liquid lineups that he had basically top 3 players, if not top 2 players, in every position, and they still got 4th. They still didn't make it to Worlds. Like, he was not the dominative, carry ADC that everybody saw, all of his fanboys see him as. He was a solid mechanical ADC. He's a good mid-pack ADC, but he's not some godlike amazing player. He's consistently the person that doesn't. He's at best a Tony Romo, that guy that's like, hey, look, I could put up a lot of good stats that mean absolutely nothing because they didn't actually get us anything. It's like, cool, I just got us that, in the terms of Tony Romo, I got this 70-yard play, and then we couldn't convert it into a touchdown. Yeah, statistically, that looks great. He threw for 380 yards this game and 2 touchdowns. Oh my god, that's mind-blowing. That's so good in yardage, except he only had 2 touchdowns. That's terrible. Like, if you look at Piglet, he'd have like, oh look, he has a great KDA of like, he went like 7-0-4, and there was only 12 kills of his team made. Oh my god, he's mind blowing. He's there for 11 out of 12. That's so good. Yeah, but his team didn't convert that to a win. He literally cleaned up kills and didn't get pressure on the map. That doesn't make him a god. That just means he's really good at killing people and or fighting people. Yay, but he can't convert that into a macro sense. Like, you have to look at the bigger picture, guys. Just because somebody has a great KDA or a great playstyle for fighting people doesn't mean they're a great player. It just means that they're really good at fighting people. And Piglet happened to kind of fall into the category of he either was really good in fights or he could farm and do objectives really well, but he couldn't do both. So that is a problem for a player. So, and on top of that, I've known Piglet. It has been known that Piglet has issues communicating with people in the past, and I think that was a big part of what happened last split. Was that okay, cool, he wasn't the old toxic Piglet that we used to see. Maybe I don't know if that's true. With the clutch wouldn't tell us if that was true, but let's say he wasn't. What was he? He was quiet. Any VODs that we got of them playing or mic checking, Piglet didn't really say anything. Lyra is already a quiet guy because he's kind of shy, not because he doesn't want to be toxic. He's just kind of a shy person. So really, that left Damonte, Vulcan, and Huni to talk. Vulcan doesn't seem like he's going to be the guy that's going to be like, "Hey, I'm going to take control of this team." He's still new. You don't obviously have him take command of the voice comms. So that left Damonte, as Huni is just always kind of a good secondary voice. He's never been the "I'm going to lead the team" type guy. So Damonte has to do this. But Damonte is in his first full split as a mid laner. So you're putting so much pressure on this kid to take reins of the team when one of the two veteran players should have been able to do it, but Lyra's too shy to say anything, and Piglet just reinforces it by not saying anything. So, when you put in Cody's son, a guy with just a little bit more experience than Damonte, who's always been quite vocal, kind of to a detriment at points where he kind of becomes a little toxic, but he seems to have fixed that quite a bit. I think that this is a very good match for the team, right? Like, this is a guy that's going to help build your team up. He's shown he's an exceptional ADC in the past, and he can be one in the future. And he's a vocal individual, which you needed to kind of help amp up the team's vocal ability to talk to each other. So now you have 4 people that will talk to each other because Vulcan now has a little bit more experience under his belt, and he's kind of a talkative by nature. So all in all, this team is just a better iteration of what the team should have been last split. And that's not necessarily to do with this weekend, I guess, guys, but it was something that did happen this weekend that I did want to address. This person left, but look at the good that it brought in its place. With him leaving, we now have I think, a better, individual person in that position. Maybe not a player, but a better person in that position, as they do need somebody else who could be a voice on the team. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you liked this video. Hope you enjoyed my little bit of the breakdown of the weekend and the breakdown of why it's kind of okay Piglet left. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the likes, leave a comment, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want to do. Share this video with a friend. And as always, guys, have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day.